top 1% elite use this shadow energy technique to control reality, you can too. Let me start by asking you a question that might shake the foundation of everything you believe. But what if the very energy you've been taught to fear is the same energy the most powerful people in the world use to shape reality in their favor? Think about it. While the masses chase surface-level positivity, hollow affirmations, and safe techniques that barely scratch the surface of the subconscious, the top 1%, those who seem to wield life like a tool, are operating on an entirely different plane. They are not avoiding the shadows, they are feeding off them. They are not running from fear, shame, or anger, they are transmuting them into the raw creative force that bends the laws of reality. And here's the secret no one is telling you: you can do it too. You've just never been shown how. We live in a world that glorifies the light and demonizes the dark. From a young age, we're taught to suppress anything labeled negative, emotions like rage, jealousy, grief, or lust. We're told to smile, to be good, to behave, to be polite. And in doing so, we exile entire parts of our soul into the subconscious, where they fester and wait. But the elite, the true architects of influence and manifestation, understand something ancient, something hidden in the mystery schools, occult teachings, and esoteric texts that never made it to the public eye. The shadow is not your enemy, it's your fuel.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The shadow is the part of you that holds all the suppressed power, the wild instincts, the primal knowing, and when ignored, it sabotages. When embraced, it creates, it liberates, it commands. The elite have been using this for centuries, not through magic tricks, but through deep psychological and energetic mastery. They understand that behind every desire lies a fear, and behind every fear lies a key. That key unlocks energy, and energy is the true currency of this universe. So when you see someone who seems untouchable, someone who magnetizes wealth, attention, influence, or peace without effort, ask yourself, what are they doing differently? Are they just lucky, more intelligent, more talented? Or are they simply operating with a different set of rules that most people never discover because they're hidden behind layers of social programming? Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I met a man in a remote part of the world. He lived in isolation, but people traveled from every corner of the globe just to spend a few moments in his presence. He wasn't a monk. He wasn't a guru in the traditional sense. He was a master of shadow energy. When I asked him what gave him such magnetism, such power, he said one thing: I stopped pretending to be only light. I remembered I am both the storm and the sun. That sentence rewired something in me. It was as if I had been looking through a fog my entire life. You see, we've been conditioned to seek safety in the spiritual world, to only touch what feels good. But real transformation doesn't come from comfort. It comes from confrontation. Real power is born the moment you stop resisting your darkness and start listening to it. So how do the elite actually use this? They don't just visualize success, they feel the terror of failure and then alchemize that energy into drive. They don't just suppress their anger, they harness it as momentum. They don't deny their jealousy, they use it as a mirror to reveal what they truly want. But every emotion, every impulse, every chaotic force inside you is a doorway to influence if you know how to transmute it. But here's what separates the elite from the masses: intention. Shadow energy without awareness is destructive. But with intention, it becomes divine. It becomes the engine behind massive manifestation. The top 1% are not ruled by their emotions, they channel them. But they've trained themselves to sit with discomfort, to embrace the full spectrum of their humanity, to own every fragmented piece of their psyche. And in doing so, they become whole. And wholeness is magnetic. Wholeness is unstoppable. This is why most people struggle with manifestation. And they try to create from the conscious mind, which only holds a fraction of your power. But reality doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your vibration. And your vibration is shaped by what lies beneath the surface. The parts of you you've abandoned, the memories you've buried, the emotions you've labeled wrong. Until you bring those into the light, not to destroy them, but to integrate them, you'll always be fighting against your own energy. So let me ask you now, what parts of yourself have you disowned? What emotions do you fear the most? And what would happen if you stopped running from them and started using them as tools for creation? This is not about becoming dark in a malicious sense. It's about becoming whole. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that have been locked away. Because in those parts lies your true creativity, your sexual energy, your willpower, your charisma, your sovereignty. These are the forces the elite activate, refine, and direct toward their goals. While others meditate to escape reality, they meditate to master it. You're not here to play small. You're not here to be half alive. You're not here to be spiritually correct. You're here to remember your full power, and shadow energy is the missing piece. Now that you're beginning to see the truth, the question becomes, are you willing to go deeper? Are you willing to confront the parts of yourself that society told you to hide and learn to wield them with grace and precision? Because once you do, reality bends. The alchemical weapon, how to transmute shadow into commanding power, step by step. Now that we've opened the door to this truth that the shadow is not your enemy but your hidden source of creation, let's take it further. Knowing is not enough. Feeling the electricity of this realization is not enough. To truly join the ranks of those who shape reality like clay, you must learn how to work with shadow energy. But this is where the elite separate themselves from the masses, not in theory, but in practice. They've learned the art of alchemical transmutation. And you can too. It's not mystical in the way most people assume. It's deeply practical. It's a system, a ritual, a way of being. The first step is presence. Shadow energy cannot be accessed through avoidance. You must learn to be with yourself in full honesty. That means creating a space where you allow everything to rise without judgment. The elite understand the human mind is a storage vault for unresolved energy, unprocessed trauma, and suppressed brilliance. So instead of numbing it with distractions, they sit with it. They listen. Can you do that? Can you sit in silence and let the voices of your past surface without running? Can you feel the full weight of your anger, your envy, your guilt, and still hold it like a sacred object? It might seem overwhelming at first. But here's what most people don't realize. Your shadow doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to be seen. It wants to be acknowledged. Because only through recognition can it be released. The elite are not fearless, they are fear literate. They understand their fear. They study it. They extract the message from it. That's the beginning of alchemy, turning emotional lead into gold. Next, you must name the energy. This is not just psychological. When you name what you're feeling, truly name it, not just label it, you begin to take authority over it. If you're feeling rage, don't say I'm upset. Say, this is rage, and it's here to show me where I've been violated or silenced. If you're feeling shame, say, this is shame, and it's pointing to a wound that still needs my compassion. The elite use language to craft their inner world. Every word you speak is either a spell or a curse. Choose precisely. Then comes the most powerful step, embodiment. You cannot transmute what you do not embody. This is where energy work meets the body. The top 1% understand that transformation doesn't happen in the intellect, it happens in the nervous system. When they feel a charge, fear before a deal, anxiety before a risk, doubt before a leap, they don't suppress it. They channel it. They breathe into it. They allow it to move through their bodies, not as something to get rid of, but as fuel. This is why many of them use practices like breathwork, primal movement, scream therapy, or even cold immersion. But they are not hacks. They're methods of embodiment. They are ways to feel the fire without being burned. Can you do the same? Can you take your raw, chaotic energy and allow it to surge through you, not to destroy, but to awaken? Can you move your body in a way that liberates what's been locked inside your muscles for years? That's where the power is not in the mind, but in the body. That's where the shadows become light. And finally, the step that only the few brave enough to finish the process ever reach, direction. Once the energy is awakened, once it's been felt and named and embodied, now you must direct it. This is the part where the elite truly separate themselves. They don't let that energy float aimlessly. They channel it into a vision, into a decision, into action. They don't just sit around feeling awakened, they use their awakening as a weapon, a tool, a compass. When you transmute shadow energy, you are not just healing, you are creating. You are turning pain into clarity. You are turning rage into purpose. You are turning shame into sovereignty. And from that energy you move. You send the email. You quit the job. You launch the business. You speak the truth. You walk away from what no longer serves. That's when the universe responds. Not when you wish, not when you hope, but when you become. So now ask yourself, where have you been storing energy that's ready to be turned into power? What emotion have you been avoiding that's actually your breakthrough? What action have you been delaying because you haven't yet owned the full spectrum of your being? This is your moment to stop playing with fragments of your power and start wielding all of it. The elite are not superhuman. They are simply unapologetically whole. They don't fear the dark because they know it's where light is born. They don't reject their flaws because they know those flaws are the blueprint for their genius. And now that you know what they know, the only question is, will you practice it? Because theory is cheap, embodiment is everything. And if you want to truly bend reality, not just manifest small desires, but reconstruct the matrix around your will, this is the path. This is the inner revolution. This is the alchemical weapon. The reality loop. How the elite reprogram the matrix using shadow frequency. Now that you understand how to transmute shadow energy into pure power, let's peel back one more layer, perhaps the most hidden, the most guarded, and yet the most applicable if you're ready for real change. This is the realm where the top 1% elite don't just work with shadow energy for internal mastery, they use it to reshape the matrix itself. Because reality, as rigid as it may seem, is not fixed. It's fluid. It's programmable. And those who understand the codes, especially the codes buried in the shadow, are the ones who write the rules that others obey. Let's start with a fundamental truth. Reality is not objective, but it's a reflection, a mirror of your dominant frequency. Not just your conscious thoughts, but your unconscious emotional signature. That signature is shaped not by what you say you want, but by what you deeply believe about yourself, about others, and about the world. Most people live in a self-reinforcing loop. Their shadow holds unhealed stories like "I'm not good enough," "people can't be trusted," or "success is dangerous." These beliefs create an energetic echo that distorts their perception and attracts matching experiences. They think life is happening to them, when in fact life is just responding to their script. The elite know this. They don't just affirm new beliefs, they install new programs. They don't just visualize, they interrupt the loop. And shadow energy is the fastest, most potent way to hack the system. Why? Because the shadow holds the deepest parts of your programming. It's where your default settings are stored. If you don't go there, the loop continues. You can meditate for years, read every spiritual book on the planet, but if your shadow still believes you're unworthy of love, of abundance, of influence, your reality will reflect that belief again and again. So how do the elite actually use shadow frequency to reprogram the matrix? They start by identifying the loop. This is not surface-level work. You can't just say, "Oh, I keep getting rejected," or "I struggle with money." You have to dig deeper. What's the emotional pattern beneath that? What belief was formed at the moment of your first major wound? For instance, if you felt abandoned as a child, your nervous system may have locked in the belief that connection equals danger. That belief then becomes the loop. You unconsciously sabotage relationships, attract avoidant partners, or isolate yourself, all while wondering, why does this keep happening? But the elite don't stop at awareness. They reverse engineer the loop. They use shadow work to bring the belief to the surface, and then they flood it with new frequency. This is not about lying to yourself. It's about replacing the old truth with a truer truth. For example, "I was abandoned" becomes "I survived abandonment, and that proves I am resilient. I am now safe to connect." This isn't just positive thinking, it's energetic reprogramming. And then comes the key: repetition through embodiment. Once the new belief is anchored, they practice it. They breathe like it's true. They walk like it's true. They act like it's true even before the external validation arrives. Why? Because reality lags behind belief. The quantum field responds not to what you hope for, but to what you are. When you walk in the frequency of your new truth, the field has no choice but to mirror it. This is how the elite bend time. This is how they manifest results while the rest of the world waits for permission. But remember, the shadow never fully disappears. It evolves with you. Each time you grow, a new layer is revealed. The elite aren't immune to fear, doubt, or sabotage. They've just trained themselves to catch the loop before it loops. They've built a relationship with their shadow so intimate that the moment an old frequency tries to return, they recognize the flavor of it. They alchemize it before it roots. That's mastery. So let me ask you, what loop have you been unconsciously living inside? What belief, born in pain, has been dictating your story? And what new frequency are you ready to install in its place, not tomorrow, but now? This is the moment where you stop being the product of your programming and become the programmer, where you stop responding to life and begin writing it. You are not a passive player in this game. You are the architect, the coder, the source. And the shadow, it's not your enemy, it's your gateway. The sovereign mirror, becoming the source of reality itself, the final activation. This is where it all converges. Everything you've seen, everything you've felt, everything you've remembered, it all leads to this one truth. You are the source, not a fragment of it, not a seeker chasing it. You are it. And the moment you stop searching for power outside yourself and begin recognizing the mirror that reality truly is, you enter a level of sovereignty that only the rarest beings ever reach. This is the final activation, not of something new, but of what has always been dormant inside you, waiting for your permission to awaken. But let's be clear, this isn't about ego. This isn't about becoming a god in the narcissistic sense. It's about realizing that the boundaries between you and the universe were never real. That the energy you've been trying to control, manifest, or call in is you. And the shadow energy we've discussed, that's the remaining veil, the final test. The last frontier where your divinity and your humanity must integrate. But the elite don't just understand this, they embody it. They don't look to the world for confirmation of their power. They decide, and the world adjusts. This is the sovereign mirror. Reality reflects not what you want, but what you are willing to be. And what you are willing to be is dictated by the level of truth you're willing to hold. If you say you want freedom, but still fear your own voice, the mirror doesn't lie. If you say you want love, but can't face the parts of yourself you've been rejecting, the mirror stays the same. But when you stop performing and start being, when you stop hiding and start owning, the mirror shatters and a new one forms. This is what the elite have mastered without even needing to explain it. They've made peace with both their light and their shadow. They don't suppress their primal instincts, they channel them. They don't fear failure, they invite it as a teacher. They don't chase abundance, they become it. They are not above the human experience, they are deeply rooted in it, but from a place of conscious creation. And you can do the same. The only difference between them and you is activation. So how do you activate? You stop waiting. You stop hoping that the world will give you a sign. You stop looking for proof before you act. And instead, you become the signal. You become the frequency. You become the proof. You walk into a room and reality shifts because your energy is undeniable. Not loud, not forced, just true. You see, sovereignty isn't about controlling everything. It's about no longer being controlled by anything. Not your past, not your programming, not your fear, not your shadow. You rise above by embracing all of it. You ascend by descending into the parts of yourself that you once rejected. That is the paradox of power. That is the final truth. And now you stand at the edge, not of something external, but of a decision. Will you continue to live half-lit, guided by fragments of your power, waiting for permission to be great? Or will you step in fully and completely and claim the life that's been waiting for the real you to arrive? Because this isn't just a message, this is a call, remembering. A mirror placed in front of you, not to show you what you lack, but to reflect what you've always been. So I ask you, with every ounce of truth in my voice, are you ready to stop living as a character in someone else's story and become the author of your own? Because the Matrix is listening, the energy is waiting, and the moment you say yes, not with words, but with embodiment, everything changes. Not because reality finally gave you what you wanted, but because you finally remembered you are reality itself.